Okay, let me unpack this Fauci contempt case because honestly, what we're seeing here isn't just about one scientist or one Senate committee. This is a window into how accountability works, or doesn't, when politics, law, and public health collide. Let's start with the obvious. Why is this even a legal question? The Senate voted to hold Fauci in contempt, but now the Justice Department has to decide whether to prosecute him. And here's where it gets juicy. If they do, they're stepping into a minefield of legal and ethical dilemmas that could set a dangerous precedent. Let me explain why I think this case matters way more than most people realize. First, let's talk about what contempt of Congress actually means here. It's not like Fauci skipped a hearing, he refused to hand over personal phones for investigation. Now, legally, the DOJ would need to prove his refusal was willful and unreasonable. But here's the twist. Courts often side with officials if there's any ambiguity in what's being requested. And Fauci's lawyers? They're already framing this as a fishing expedition by political opponents. What fascinates me about this is how it mirrors the broader tension between transparency and privacy. When does oversight become weaponization? And who decides? But wait, let's zoom out. If the DOJ prosecutes Fauci and loses, it weakens their authority. If they win, they risk turning him into a martyr for scientists fearing political retaliation. Either way, the Justice Department's credibility is on the line. What many people don't realize is that this isn't just about one case. It's about whether the DOJ can stay neutral in an era where everything feels politicized. Think about it, if they go after a high-profile figure like Fauci, what happens when the next administration wants to target someone on the other side? This feels like a test of the system's integrity. Now, here's where I get skeptical about the whole spectacle. The Senate committee pushing this is led by Republicans, no surprise there, but the bigger story is how we've normalized turning bureaucratic disputes into criminal cases. This raises a deeper question: are we criminalizing policy disagreements? Because if refusing to hand over phones becomes a prosecutable offense, where does that leave room for debate? Imagine future scenarios where a CDC director gets hauled to court for downplaying a virus, or a climate scientist faces charges for ignoring data. Where's the line? What's also fascinating to me is the public perception angle. Fauci's already a polarizing figure, loved by some, hated by others. But prosecuting him could backfire massively. If he's seen as a scapegoat for a pandemic that killed millions worldwide, this case might become a symbol of how we punish messengers instead of addressing systemic failures. Let's be real, the pandemic exposed flaws in global health infrastructure, not just Fauci's communication style. So why does this feel like we're blaming the man instead of fixing the machine? Here's my take: this case isn't about justice, it's about optics. For the Senate, it's a way to look tough on accountability. For the DOJ, it's a no-win scenario that'll anger half the country either way. And for Fauci? Honestly, at 85, he's probably thinking this is a distraction from his life's work. But what this really highlights is a broken system where legal action becomes the default response to complex problems. So I'll leave you with this: if the DOJ decides to prosecute Fauci, we need to ask ourselves, are we setting a precedent for accountability, or just creating a new playbook for political vendettas? And more importantly, who actually benefits when science becomes a courtroom battleground? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and if you're still here, thanks for sticking through the analysis. See you next time.